I want to talk about shame. And the reason I want to bring this topic up is because of the research I've been doing, and it's been a pretty common theme among women who have experienced breakup or divorce, and it's been surrounding the reality of their partner's affair. And I really think that this topic and the research that I've been gathering is allowing me to have a different perspective on this program that I'm working to create and the women that I'm going to reach with this and be available to. So yes, I'm going to continue to study and talk to these women in this particular area, but I think it's so much bigger than the grief surrounding the circumstances that I've mentioned, but it goes more into how we show up as women, how we're showing up in relationships, but more importantly, how we're showing up in our own relationship with ourselves, and being able to connect with and find our truest, most authentic self. And I can tell you 100% without a doubt that when I got married, I wasn't my truest, most authentic self. I had a lot of unhealed things from my past. I had a lot of avoidant behaviors. I didn't have God as a priority in my life, and I was young, but not like super young, like 23, or no, that was whenever I had my son. I did things a little bit backwards. We had our kids and then we got married. So that was like another like, whoo, okay, what's going on here? But just a reality. So yeah, our daughter was 2. So however old that made me, like 30? Yeah. Okay. So I wasn't a baby, right? I was grown. But I hadn't taken the time to do the healing that I needed to do from all of this past stuff. So although I felt like maturity wise, I had grown and evolved, and I had this idea of, you know, what this was supposed to look like. Like, you know, we had 2 kids and that was the next thing. Like, obviously we should be a family. So looking back, I can see things much more clearly. And the most important part of that was I hadn't done the work. I didn't know who I was. When we're not truly healed, we're going to bring all of that energy in to the relationship with us. And, you know, it's real easy, or it was easy for me to be angry with him for his actions and behavior. But there was a time where I also said to myself, and probably maybe to a few people, but what's wrong with me? Like, why wasn't I enough? Or what did I do that caused him to want to go do that? And that's where this commonality keeps coming from, these women, of what is wrong with me. And I just don't think that that is right. I don't think that has anything to do with the actions of someone else and what they choose to do and how they choose to operate or show up or not show up. And it clicked for me in a conversation when someone said, well, if he had went and robbed a bank, would that be your fault? And I'm like, well, absolutely not. Like, I wouldn't take ownership for that, right? It had nothing to do with me. That was someone else's poor decision to go and do that. And then it started to make more sense as I sat with that, and I realized the actions that he chose, even in other relationships, I could apply this, had nothing to do with me. But in that hurt and in that pain, I made it about me, and I made it about this representation of the shame that was showing up. And while it was showing up in that moment and surrounding those circumstances, I can now look back and see that there were other situations in my life where I'd felt that way, or I'd asked that question, and it all started to click and make sense that these emotions from my past that I hadn't dealt with were stacking and building and building, and all of that momentum and all of that energy came into this one circumstance, and that was messy and awful and shouldn't have happened and all the things, but it amplified the emotion that I felt with that circumstance and like times it by 1,000. So I really believe that everything that I felt after was appropriate and true and existed, but I also felt it in a bigger way. And because of the way that I coped with things, or like didn't cope with things, it showed up in a really big way, but then I also was able to like package it up and shove it down in a different way. And until I was ready to listen to the whispers and the ways it was showing up, and really take a look at the way I was living, the way that I felt in my body, the things, the thoughts that would come into my mind, the feelings I would have about things, until I was willing to really look at that and open them up and start to navigate through it and let the energy process and digest and release from me, I was carrying all of that. And so it just made it so much more messy. And I really think that is true for a lot of women. And that doesn't have to be due to your partner having an affair. So that's why I wanted to bring up this idea and talk about shame and what that looks like for many of us, but also inviting you to start investigating. Be curious with yourself of the relationships that you're having and how you're showing up. And you know, we can't control how somebody else shows up. We can't control what they do, what they don't do, but we can control what we do, how we show up, and set the tone and the frequency, the energy around what we want our lives to look like. And if we're allowing ourselves to get sucked into drama, we're gonna live there, we're gonna feel that, and that's what we're gonna experience. But if we're really able to connect with that power center, that solar plexus, that confidence, and show up in a way that says, this is who I am, this is how I operate, and I'm not accepting of those other things, it becomes much more about, you did this, that was a decision, that was a poor decision, and now because of my values and beliefs, I'm not going to be a part of that. And then being able to powerfully and confidently just separate from that and walk away. And you know, it doesn't mean that the grief isn't going to be there of the ideas of kind of, you know, what we thought life was going to look like, but it doesn't have to completely define us and pull us into this fog and make us feel like we're less than, or like we did something wrong, when it had nothing to do with us. Now I do feel like the reality and fact that I didn't know myself and wasn't my truest, most authentic self going into a marriage, like, does that impact everything? Absolutely. So I think there's ownership on both sides as far as how you're showing up, but it's definitely not your fault and not your responsibility to take on somebody else's actions of how they choose to show up and what they choose to do. There are definitely other ways that are much healthier to voice or have conversation or communicate about things that aren't going well and what needs to change around that. So more than anything, I just encourage you to be curious, to really look at relationships, whether it's marriage, whether it's dating, even in friendships, and notice how you're showing up, notice how they feel, and if something feels off or something feels like it's just not quite right, listen to that intuition. And for a long time, I knew that about myself. I knew there was something not quite right, and I just didn't, it drove me crazy because I knew it, but I didn't know what it was or what to do about it. And it was almost like I had missing pieces of the puzzle, and I was putting this beautiful picture together, in, you know, growing and evolving and shaping my life, but there was just these little blank spaces, and I oh, I would get so frustrated because I just didn't see certain things. And I've learned along the way how to show up in my body, how to be reflective of my thoughts, and even deciding which thoughts that even deserve to be looked at and considered, and which ones need to just go away. So digging into this past step, doing the work, showing up, and really letting yourself dream about, like, what does this person look like in the future? Who do you want to be? And who are you right now? What needs to be sorted through so you can be that true, authentic person that you are? So I hope that made sense. There are a couple things that are kind of drawing into the solar plexus area, which is where we carry that confidence and power. So just above the belly button, but below the heart. And this energy center is responsible for our confidence, for the way that we're able to show up and stand in our power. And there's many things that I've done along the way and that I'll include in this program that I'm working on, but just a few things. If you're just like, oh yeah, I resonate with some of these things, or I want to know more, a few practices that you can start today is visualization. So we can start there. Maybe you close down your eyes, you bring your awareness to your solar plexus. So again, just above your belly button, below your heart. Maybe you even put both hands in this space, drawing the awareness here, and visualize the color yellow. So this is the color that represents the solar plexus. Visualize a yellow light glowing inside. Maybe you begin to connect with your breath deep on the inhale, breathing down into this area. And then exhale. Inhale deep. And exhale. And as you inhale, notice the yellow hue begins to grow, expanding from your body. Inhaling, it grows. And exhale through the nose. On each inhale, it expands further and further throughout the room. Continue with the breath. This light expands across the town. Across your state, your country, and all the way around the world. Feeling the confidence, the power that is within you to stand up for yourself, to know yourself, to be yourself. And when we truly know our values and beliefs, we know who we are and what we stand for. We know what healthy love feels like and looks like. We can start to draw that into our lives. And we'll slowly begin to open our eyes, coming back into the space. So taking that mindful moment, that color visualization, and allowing yourself to ground into that can be super helpful. If you feel like your power is just being taken, or that it's dim, allow yourself to recharge that. Pray and ask that be restored within you, and it will be. It will. Allow yourself to journal, to purge all the thoughts, to brain dump everything out on paper. You can burn that and watch it go up into ashes and smoke and release that way. You can shred it into small little tiny pieces of paper. Any way to get that stuff out of your body is super helpful. You can eat yellow foods. So try to incorporate those in your diet and do that mindfully. So if you're eating a banana, enjoy the hue, the color of the yellow. Enjoy the flavor and the taste, but also as you're ingesting that and bringing that into your body, have gratitude around it, and have gratitude around the color of yellow and the representation of power and restoring, and of course the nutrients that it's going to bring to your body, but also to your spirit, to your soul. Wear yellow. See how you feel whenever you look at the color yellow. Does it bring a little bit of joy to your life? Does it make you feel a little bit more confident? Does it feel like sunshine to you? Spend some time out in the sun. Not only is that good being in nature, but also the colors are there. So whatever that looks like for you, those are just a few ideas of something that you can go and really sit in and practice. That's free. It's right at your fingertips, and it really can make a difference. These are not the quick fix answers. I don't think there are any, but there are different, again, puzzle pieces that things start to fall into place and they make sense and they help us to feel good and navigate through some of this stuff that otherwise doesn't make sense, or it's so jumbled up and messy that it's hard to see it clearly. So thanks for listening. Again, comment or direct message me if you have questions. If you have a story that you'd like to share that could add to my research, I'd really appreciate that, because I'm moving along and getting some awesome information, being able to talk to women really all around the country, and even in some other countries. So it's been really fun and interesting work, and I look forward to continuing to do that, and continuing to grow in my understanding around what women need right now, and how to help and how to show up in a way that is gonna really help provide healing, but allow women to step into their power, to step into who they are, so they can go out and have the relationships and the connections and show up in the world the way that they're supposed to. So I appreciate you all. Lots of love, and I'll talk to you soon.